Hey, hi, hello, what's up? It's me, Tiana, back at it again for another video, and today we are talking about what I watched this month. Yeah. Last month, I didn't do what I watched this month because I had too much going on, right? And I recorded it, but then I decided to just make it just a review of Bad Hair. So I'll put that up there if you want to watch that Bad Hair review. But yeah, so I guess I can quickly talk about what I watched in October, but it wasn't really a lot. I was mostly just watching movies. I watched the Temptation movie, which I love. I watched The Babysitter's Club, a TV show or a series on Netflix that is really great. It's really cute and really sweet. You should watch it. I watched Scream, Attack the Block, The Bronx versus the Vampires. I don't know if I started watching Girlfriends, but I was watching Girlfriends. I watched Lovebirds, the Issa Rae movie with cannot think of what his name is, but it was good. I liked it. I watched Sabrina the Animated Series, which was actually really bad, and I used to love that show when I was a kid, but rewatching it now is a big no for me. And Braceface. I watched Braceface because it's a YouTuber. I cannot remember what his name is now, but he did a video talking about it. I'll put it in the description box. He did a video talking about Braceface, and it made me remember how much I loved Braceface when it originally aired. So I was like, let me just, and it's still good. I still love it. It's still great. All right, so now we're into November. So I skipped past Girlfriends because I did finish Girlfriends in November, and I do want to talk about that. So Girlfriends is one of my favorite shows of all time. I watched Girlfriends when it originally aired as a child. I was a very young child when I was watching Girlfriends, and most of the storylines and stuff, they kind of was going over my head. But the thing that really stuck with me was just being able to see like successful, like fashionable, like cool Black women on TV who had like men in love with them and falling all over them, and just the friendship of it all and all of that. Like, it was really important to me as a kid to see that on TV. So I was really excited once Netflix had announced they were putting Girlfriends on. Right before Netflix had announced they were putting Girlfriends on Netflix, I had actually been looking to see where Girlfriends was streaming because I really wanted to rewatch it. And I was actually going to skip season 1 and just watch like the other seasons, because they had the other seasons 2 through 8 were streaming on the CW Seed app, but they didn't have season 1, and I couldn't find season 1 anywhere. So I was like, I'll just watch it from season 2. And I was so excited when I found out that it was going to be on Netflix. So I just waited and watched it on Netflix. I think it was on Netflix in September, and that's probably when I started watching it, in September. But I finished it in this month of November. I just finished it like last week. And I really, really, really love the show. Like, still, it's so many good and interesting storylines. I was gonna do a full video review of my thoughts on Girlfriends, but I don't feel like I have enough thoughts to make an entire separate video, which is the point of me doing these What I Watched This Month videos, to just talk about stuff that I don't feel like could be a whole video. But because it's mostly just praise. I really love the show. I really, really love the development of the friendship. I wish we had more shows starring Black women that focus more on friendships than like relationships. I do love a good romance. I love seeing like healthy depictions of relationships and people being in love, especially with Black women, seeing them being like loved on and lusted after and all of that. However, I do really love seeing female friendships portrayed on TV, and I wish we got more. I wish we got more TV and movies about friendship than about like romantic relationship, romantic love. But even when I watch it, girl. So I really love the way their friendship developed. The only real criticism is I feel like they really never found what to do with Lynn. They never really gave her anything. Like, she was supposed to be the hoe, but she had the least amount of relationships that we got to see. We never really got to see her in love. We never really got to see her in like any sort of healthy relationship. We never got to really see her find her way. In the final season, they tried to like give her something to do and sort of made her like famous as a singer, songwriter, or whatever, which was, fun or interesting to watch, but I just wish they would have figured out what to do with Lynn earlier in the show. I love Monica, and I wish we would have got more of Monica. I get that Monica was sort of like placed in there as a replacement because Joe Marie Jones left the show, so we didn't have Tony anymore, but I really loved Monica as a character, and I wish we would have got more of her overall in the show. And I do like the idea that the bare bones of who Monica was as a character, of her being someone who was like grew up with money and knew exactly who she was and what she wanted out of life, and was not afraid to just go and get it. I don't know why she was linked up with William so hard, and what she saw in William that she was like, yeah, gotta have him. But I do like the idea of her character. I really liked. Still feel like I'm a Joan for so many reasons that I can't even, like, I feel like 80%, I know I said this in the whatever video I was talking about Moesha, but a lot of my personality is Moesha, but a lot of my personality is Joan. And it comes because I was watching those shows at a very young age that I probably shouldn't have been. But yeah, I really love Girlfriends. It's one of my all-time favorite shows, and it's just chef's kiss. Beautiful, wonderful, amazing, 10 out of 10, no critiques. It's great. So the next thing that I watched, This Is Us came back this month, so I was watching the episodes that came back. I really hate that they put the COVID stuff in it, because it's like, I'm alive now, I'm living through COVID, I don't need to see them my fictional programming. I get why, because the shows have to make a decision of, do they include COVID or do they not include COVID? If you include COVID, then you have all the COVID issues that you have to work through, like the mask and distancing and characters being where they're supposed to be, and not being able to travel as easily or whatever, or characters getting sick or characters dying or whatever. Like, you have to realistically factor those COVID factors in. Or you cannot include COVID, and then your show sort of loses the reality of it. Like, it sort of separates from the reality that we're in. Your show is no longer set in our universe if there's no COVID. So I guess they felt like it was more important to have the show be set in like realistic, this is our world setting, versus just not having COVID in the storyline. They do make some choices that it just irritates me, like the mask stuff, of them wearing masks sometimes and not wearing masks sometimes, and like being close with people and not close to people. And also, no one on the show has gotten COVID, or we haven't seen anything about people getting COVID like on the sidelines. We saw her, like Kate, with her storyline is that they're adopting a child, and the woman that they're adopting, a surrogate, I don't know if that's considered a surrogate, but the woman that they're adopting the child from, Kate took her to a doctor's appointment, and we see her in the doctor's office, which was, a lot of doctor's offices aren't letting people just be in there who don't have to be in there, but also they rode in a car together, so like that's, but I get, maybe she just thinks she must be, following all the guidelines because she's pregnant, and Kate is following all the guidelines because she has a small child, but I don't know. The best part of This Is Us is always and will always be the Black Pearsons, Deja and her little boyfriend. It's so cute, it's so adorable. The Black Pearsons is really the only reason why I keep coming back to the show, because we need more about Randall and Beth and less about those other people. That's my thoughts. Superstar also came back. Superstar and This Is Us are the only shows that came back that I'm currently watching. Superstar is very funny. I loved it. It really broke my heart when Redacted and Redacted broke up, because even though I don't really care about them as a couple, I thought that they were gonna end up together, and it just kind of hurt my feelings, kind of hurt my heart that it didn't. Also finished Legend of Korra this month. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know what happened in the show. I really don't know. I watched the whole thing, and I wasn't paying enough attention. I wasn't following close enough. I didn't care enough about the characters to really give the show like what it needed. I might at some point in my life rewatch the show, but for me it was just kind of a dud. Sorry about it. I know people really love the show. Now we're gonna get into movies. So I broke it into 2.5 categories. First category is YA, white girls. Second category is adaptations, and then the final category is the movie that I watched yesterday. So in the YA genre of white girls, I watched Yes God Yes on Netflix. It's a new Netflix movie about a white girl, and I don't know what the time period is. I'm assuming it's the early 2000s because of the cell phones and stuff. I mean the computers that they have. I think it's either the early 2000s or the late 90s, but I feel like it's the early 2000s. That makes sense. It's the white girl in the early 2000s who goes to Catholic school, and she's sort of at her big age of 16 just starting to understand like sexual desire and start trying to find a balance between like living up to her Christian ideals and her like bodily urges or whatever. And she goes to this Christian camp, and yeah, the story is very boring. The movie is very boring. There was some stuff that was very funny. I feel like if you grew up very religious, not even necessarily Catholic like she is, but if you just grew up really religious, it's a lot of stuff that you probably can relate to. And it sort of like lampshades a lot of the hypocrisy in Christianity when it comes to sex. And you have like characters who are like father, I don't know what the priests, characters who are like a character that's a priest who has told them that masturbation is a sin, and then having him have a scene where he's caught by one of the characters masturbating, and just like, you know, stuff like that. You have character who was like really religious and like one of the leaders, and like was telling on people who wasn't following the rules, and then she gets caught having sex with one of the characters, you know, in the woods at the camp. So, you know, it's giving you a lot of like the hypocrisy of the way people who are religious talk about sex and sexual relationships. And also I don't know, some stuff is funny, but overall the movie is just really boring, and I was waiting for it to get interesting and it just never did. But I don't dislike it, I just find it boring. I probably will never watch it again, but I don't regret having watched it. The next one, I watched Lady Bird. Again, I really liked the movie, but I thought it was a little bit boring. There were some like plots that I really liked. I feel like the movie went on so long, but again, it might be just because I was bored by it. I was like, okay, is it gonna end here? No. Okay, is it gonna end here? No. Okay. Yeah, but I overall like the movie. I don't understand why people were making it seem like it was like the greatest movie that ever had a white girl in the lead as a teenager, like, or like the praise and like adulation is of the words. I'm struggling with words today, that I saw that people were giving Greta Gerwig for this movie. And it's not me saying that she didn't deserve any praise, but just that the amount of praise made me feel like the movie was going to be like revolutionary in some way. But I just felt like the only thing that it really did, that I haven't seen many shows or movies like in this genre do, is just have a really strange main character. Like Lady Bird was very weird, and I thought that was like refreshing to have a main character that was not like cookie cutter in like the way, like either very shy and quiet and have to pull out her shell, or like very like outgoing. Like she was like weird and strange, but also extremely outgoing and very much like say what you want. But we also, I don't know, and also people like hyped Timmy Chalamet in this movie, but like I just didn't care about his character. I actually really didn't like his character, and I didn't really get the hype over him in this movie, but that's just, most of the time I don't be giving the hype over these white boys that people lust after. I do think he's a cute for a child, but he looks like a child. So next I watched Booksmart. Again, I actually liked Booksmart. I really liked the character that was a lesbian. I cannot remember either one of those characters' name, but the one that was the friend that was a lesbian, I really found her storyline really interesting. I really related to her as a character. I thought the movie was good. I actually liked that movie more than I liked Lady Bird. But I had more issues with Booksmart because Booksmart was marketed and like hitting you over the head very obviously in the movie that it was a feminist film. However, it was very white. And the thing I need people to understand is you can't be a feminist and be racist. You can't be a feminist and be sexist. I'm sorry, be homophobic. You can't be a feminist and be transphobic. That's not how that works. You have to understand that systems of oppression work together. You can't try to eradicate like sexism but keep racism and homophobia and classism. Like, you have to understand that all those things intersect, and you'll never truly have freedom for women until you have freedom for all women. So like, for them to consider this movie a feminist film but not have a speaking role for anyone who is not a white woman, it's just weird to me. It's weird to me. Like, Jessica Williams was in the movie. Jessica Williams had a speaking role, but outside of Jessica Williams, there was no teenage girl in this movie that had a speaking role that was not white. And it's just like, any of those characters could have changed the race and it would not have changed the story at all. They could have had one of the best friends, either one of the best friends been a girl of color, and that would not have changed the story. They could have made the girl that they were calling AAA, they could have had her be a woman of color. That would not have changed the story at all. They could have had the girl that the lesbian girl was like crushing on being a woman of color. Would not have changed the story at all. But they just simply did not. And they could have had that weird girl who was like popping up everywhere they was be a woman of color. They did not. And it would not have changed the story at all. It would not have affected the story at all for them to cast someone who was not white for any of the characters in this movie. But they just chose not to. And that's really, really sad. And yeah. Next category we're in is adaptations. So last weekend I just randomly was like, I wanted to watch Pride and Prejudice because I found out it was on Netflix. And like a couple weeks ago, I was wanting to watch Emma 2020, right? Because I watched that at the beginning of the year when the quarantine and stuff first started. Really loved it, and I wanted to watch it again. But it's not streaming anywhere for free, and I don't want to pay for it again. So I was like, okay, I'll watch Clueless because it had been on Netflix forever. And it's the same story, right? Emma is clueless. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch Clueless. I tried to find it on Netflix. They had just taken off Netflix, and my feelings was hurt. So I was like, dang. So randomly, I saw that under the little category, they was like, for you, it was like Pride and Prejudice. I was like, oh my, no, it was Watch Again. It was like Pride and Prejudice. I was like, oh my God, they put Pride and Prejudice on Netflix. I love Pride and Prejudice. It's one of my favorite movies. So I was like, okay, let me watch Pride and Prejudice. So I watched Pride and Prejudice, and it's still great. Pride and Prejudice is... Pride and Prejudice is my favorite movie, despite the fact that it has... I hate movies with when the male interest is, I don't find him attractive, right? I won't say he's ugly because that's mean, and other people definitely do find him attractive. I just don't find him attractive, and I don't really like watching love stories where I don't find the love interest attractive, because I can't put myself in the place of the main character if I'm not attracted to the person that they're attracted to. However, the way that Keira Knightley plays her character, like the gentle, I don't even know the words that I'm trying to use, like the lightness and just the way she just embodies the character, I really, really love. It's just so sweet. And the will they, won't they, just the way that she interacts with Mr. Darcy, I feel like it's very relatable to how I react. Like I will bully you into a relationship in a way where it's like I'm not really nice. Like, I don't feel like niceness, you can't really be nice to people. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say. Like, just the way that she like sort of picks at him, I found it relatable. And I really liked it. I don't know. I really love Pride and Prejudice. I also don't like movies with British accents, when a whole cast has British accents. I just find it hard to follow. I don't know why when I speak English, but the British accent, something about that English just don't be sitting right in my ears. But I just really love the movie. It's very sweet. It's very the emotional, the scene where they're arguing and then they like try not to kiss makes me want to die. Like, it's the passion that's there, like the heat in that moment, the chemistry that those two actors have. Yes ma'am, yes. The second movie that I watched, because after I watched Pride and Prejudice, I was like, I want to watch another adaptation. So I watched Romeo plus Juliet, the Les Erman. I'm not a movie girl. I can't remember the director name. I think it's Les Erman or something like that. Version, the 1996 version of Romeo and Juliet. So I will say I'm one of those girls, one of those nerds that I really did like Romeo and Juliet when I read it in high school. I was not someone who was like, oh my god, I hate reading in school. I've always liked reading. I liked every book I read in school. Even the school assigned book, I liked them all. I can't think of a single book that I read in school that I was like made to read in school that I didn't like. But also, I'm not really picky, so that's probably why. I really love Romeo and Juliet. It's one of my favorite of the Shakespeare plays that I read in high school. I do like adaptations of Romeo and Juliet that I've seen, but I had never seen this movie before. This is the first time I ever watched it. And my overall thoughts on the movie is that the editing made me nauseous. Like, I get that like the point was that it was supposed to be like crazy and weird and strange, and that the reason why I really watched it was because I watched that Broe Deschanel video when she was talking about Shakespeare adaptations. I will put that in the description box. But she made me want to watch the movie because I had heard people talking about it all the time, but I was like, let me just watch it. Let me get my own opinion on the movie. And like I said, my overall opinion was just that the editing made me nauseous. I also was like trying to figure out why Claire Danes was Juliet when the rest of the people in her family were Mexican, I think, or some kind of Latinx. And I was like, why is Claire Danes Juliet? They should have had a Mexican or somebody that was Latinx play Juliet. And also that's how I feel about most movies. Like, you can just not cast all white people. Like, I promise you it's not gonna harm anything if you just don't cast everybody in the movie white. But yeah, the movie was fine. I probably won't watch it again. I probably won't like seek it out. It wasn't like, oh my god, I love this movie. There were some scenes that I thought were really great. I thought it was interesting to have it set or cool to have it set in the current time, but also you still use the actual Shakespearean old time like language. It just added something to it to have them still speaking in that language. I feel like Harold Perrineau, I don't know if he has an Oscar, but he needs an Oscar for that movie and any other thing he's ever been. He's one of the greatest actors that I've ever seen, and he's so slept on. Like, I've never seen him give a bad performance. Like, he's so chef's kiss in this movie. It was so good. He was my favorite part of the movie. And then I was really upset when he died. Like, I didn't know he was gonna die. Like, I was like, no, certainly they're not going to kill off Harold Perrineau. I know that the character dies, but like, surely they'll change that and he doesn't die. And when he died, I was shook and sad. I'm trying to think. I think that's really it. The only thing that I would like to say is that we do need a Sharon Draper, Romeo and Julio movie. Yeah, we need that. Yeah, we need that adaptation. Yeah. And the last adaptation that I watched, so like you might think, okay, so she did a Jane Austen book, she did, you know, Shakespeare. This third movie is gonna be like something in that vein. It's not. It's To All the Boys I Loved Before. I watched both movies because I love them and they're my favorite movies. And I've seen To All the Boys, the first one, probably 10 times, and it's only been out like 2 years. But I've definitely watched it probably 10 times. And I just love it. It's so good. It's a perfect movie. Like, it's a perfect YA movie. I would not make any changes. The second movie. So the first time I watched the second movie. The first time I watched the second movie, I was like, I like this. I will say that the second book is my favorite of the books. And I will also say that I did not read the first book. I watched the movie for the first one. I read the second book, and I listened to the audiobook for the third book. The third book was my least favorite. I'm not even going to sit here and like stunt, but I am going to be watching that movie. I am still excited to watch the movie because I love Laura Kander. And just like Keira Knightley, I feel like brought something to Pride and Prejudice that if it was a different character if it was a different actor in that role, I might not have liked the movie as much as I did. I feel like it's the same with Laura Kander. If somebody else had been cast in that role of Laura Jean, I feel like I may have liked Laura Jean less, but there's something that Laura Kander is bringing to the character, something of like the personality that she gave Laura Jean that wasn't necessarily there on the page. I really love. And also the same thing really with Noah Centineo, or however you say his last name. Like, what he brings to the character of Peter really makes Peter a character that you can root for, because in the book, on the page, especially in that second story, Peter is terrible. And I was rooting for John when I read the book. When I watched the movie, I understood why she picked Peter and did not pick John. And I know a lot of people were mad because obviously John was better on paper, right? Him and Laura Jean had they had a lot of similarities. They had a lot of things in common that made them look on paper like a better couple. But I feel like the thing that people need to understand about why she chose Peter and did not choose John Ambrose was because she was in love with Peter and she was 17 years old. Like, if we were talking about a grown woman of 28, 30, 32 years old, like somewhere in that time frame, she absolutely would have picked John Ambrose, because John Ambrose is the person that you settle down with. John Ambrose is the person that you build a life with. However, she was still in love with Peter, and her issue with Peter was not that Peter did something that made her feel like she couldn't be with him. It was that she was extremely jealous of his prior relationship with Jen, and once she was able to put aside her feelings about Jen, she was able to then put her insecurities away and deal with Peter in the way that she wanted to be dealing with Peter. And I feel like once we saw that she forgave Jen, or had that conversation with Jen and was able to move on with Jen, we should have known that she was going to go back to Peter, because her issue with Peter was because of Jen, and the way her relationship with Jen was so marred by them both being jealous and not being able to have a conversation about those feelings and that jealousy. Once they were able to have that conversation and she was able to move on from her resentment of his relationship with Jen, then she was able to have her own relationship with Peter, because she did like him, and she probably had always liked him, but it took her fake dating him to realize that her feelings was there and be able to be honest and open about those feelings. So to me, it made very much sense that she ended up with Peter, even though I agree that John Ambrose was probably the better person for her. But in the book, the way they wrote Peter made you want to be like, I hate Peter. But also in the book, I feel like it also made sense that she chose Peter, because in the book, her love for John Ambrose was not so palpable. I feel like Laura Kander and Jordan Fisher had a lot of chemistry that people were also like, oh, I would love to see them together because of that. But yeah, she should have been with Peter. It makes sense that she ended with Peter, and even though I didn't necessarily want her to end up with Peter when I read the book, I feel like for the movie it makes sense and I like it. Also, and I said this on Twitter, but also I want to see Laura and Peter break up in the third movie, because I feel like what her sister did in the first movie of breaking up with her boyfriend before she went to college was very smart, and I want that for Laura Jean too. I also hope we get more of, I was about to call her Maya. What is her name? I can't remember what her character name is. I can't remember what her real name is. But the girl from Pretty Little Liars, Mona from Pretty Little Liars, I want to see more of her in the third movie, even though I feel like I listened to the book for the third movie and I don't remember the storyline at all. Other than she was like planning on going to college. It was her senior year. She was planning her college stuff and going on like school visits and all that. But I can't remember what like the conflict. Well, I remember the conflict was she was going off to college. But I can't remember like what the actual like issue was in that book. And I'm assuming that we're gonna get it in February again because it's already filmed. But I wish they would have just gave us both movies. And then the final movie is Soul Food. I watched Soul Food yesterday after Thanksgiving. Today's the day after Thanksgiving, and I watched it the day of Thanksgiving, and it was just great. Those were my thoughts on Soul Food. It was great. I really love it. It's one of my favorite movies. The Wood, I think, is my favorite of the Black movies of that time period. But Love and Basketball, The Players Club, Soul Food round out the top 5. Even though I don't think that was 5. I'm pretty sure that was 4. But they round out the top 4 of my favorite movies. It's The Wood, Love and Basketball, The Players Club, and Soul Food. I just really love it. But yeah, so that is it. That is all. I'm very hungry, so I'm gonna go eat. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe, like this video if you like this content. And if you want to see more, you can follow me on Twitter if you want to see me talking about more stuff that I talk about. You can also follow me on Instagram if you just really want to see me post once a year. I think that's it. So I'll see you in the next one.